Welcome to Graves of Empire, the channel where we dig up the parts of history that don't make it into textbooks, the tyrants, the forgotten atrocities, the rulers whose legacies were built on choices no one wants to put on a monument. Tonight's story is about a name most of you already know or think you do, Dracula, but the man behind that name was never a vampire. He was a 15th century prince from a small, poor country called Wallachia, squeezed between two empires that both wanted him gone, and the way he survived became one of the most disturbing true stories in medieval Europe. This is the real history behind the legend, Vlad III of Wallachia, remembered by the world as Vlad the Impaler. Some rulers are remembered for what they built. This one is remembered for a field 60 miles from his own capital, where an invading army, the most powerful military force in the world at the time, stopped marching, not because they were defeated, because of what they saw. If this is your first time here, consider subscribing. New dark history documentaries go up regularly, and this is exactly the kind of story we specialize in. Now let's begin. Wallachia, June 1462, an Ottoman army, tens of thousands strong, led by one of the most feared conquerors in the world, marches toward the capital city of Târgoviște, certain of victory. Then the vanguard crests a low hill, and the army simply stops. Ahead of them, stretching for nearly a mile, are thousands of wooden stakes driven into the earth. On each one, a body. Some contemporary chroniclers claim as many as 20,000 of them. Ottoman soldiers, captured officials, the decayed and the freshly dead, side by side, left to rot in the open air until the smell alone could be tasted from a mile off. Sultan Mehmed II, the same man who had conquered Constantinople itself only 9 years earlier, looks out over the field and orders his army to turn back. The man responsible for this is not a monster from folklore. He is a prince defending a small, poor country against the largest empire on earth, and he has just discovered that terror can do what an army cannot. This is the story of Vlad III of Wallachia. History remembers him as Vlad the Impaler, and by the end of this story, you may find that the fictional vampire that borrowed his name is, in some ways, the less disturbing version of the two. Vlad was born around 1431 in the Transylvanian town of Sighișoara, the son of a minor prince named Vlad II, a man who'd earned the nickname Dracula, the dragon, after joining a chivalric order sworn to defend Christian Europe from Ottoman expansion. It's a fitting irony, then, that Vlad's father secured his own throne in Wallachia through an uneasy alliance with the very empire he'd sworn to resist, and that to keep the peace, he handed over his two younger sons, Vlad and his brother Radu, as hostages to the Ottoman court. Vlad spent his adolescence, some of the most formative years of his life, as a captive in the Sultan's territory. Accounts suggest he was treated harshly, at times beaten for defiance, while his younger brother Radu adapted to Ottoman court life far more easily and would go on to convert and align himself with the empire that held them both. Vlad did not adapt, he endured. Then in 1447, word reached him of what had happened back home. His father had been assassinated by rebelling nobles, the Boyars, who ambushed him in a marsh. His older brother Mircea was captured, tortured, blinded, and buried alive. Vlad was released not long after, stepping back into a Wallachia that had just murdered his family. He was still a teenager, and the lesson he seems to have taken from it was simple. Mercy gets you buried alive in a swamp. He would spend the rest of his life making sure no one made that mistake with him twice. Vlad's path to the throne was neither quick nor clean. He ruled Wallachia 3 separate times across his life, losing and reclaiming power more than once. But it was his second reign, beginning in 1456, where the stories that made him infamous took root. His first order of business was Wallachia's own nobility, the same class of boyar lords responsible for his father's assassination and his brother's torture. According to later chronicles, Vlad invited the boyar families to a grand Easter banquet, an apparent gesture of reconciliation. It was a trap. Partway through the feast, his soldiers seized the guests. The older nobles, along with their families, were marched roughly 40 miles to the ruins of Ponari on a cliff above the Argesh River and forced into slave labor, rebuilding it into a fortress, reportedly working until their clothes rotted off their bodies. Vlad's younger enemies fared no better. Chronicles claim they were impaled on the spot, their bodies left twitching at the very table where they'd just been guests. It was brutal, and it was also, from Vlad's perspective, effective. In a single act, he eliminated the class of nobles most likely to conspire against him, the same class that had killed his father, and built himself a mountain fortress with their labor. Wallachhia's nobility learned to fear their prince more than they feared each other. That fear became the foundation of Vlad's entire method of rule. By the late 1450s, Vlad had turned that same brutal method outward against merchants who cheated customs, against thieves, against anyone he judged a threat to order in his small, precarious country. Impalement became his signature punishment, a slow, agonizing death by a sharpened stake, the bodies left on public display for weeks as a warning. Contemporary and often hostile chronicles claim he impaled staggering numbers of his own subjects during his reign, though historians caution these figures, recorded largely by his enemies, were likely exaggerated for propaganda. What isn't in dispute is that Vlad understood something most rulers of his era didn't, that a reputation for extreme cruelty could function as a weapon in itself, deterring threats before they ever had to be fought. He tested that theory against the largest power in the region. In 1461, Vlad stopped paying tribute to the Ottoman Empire and began a scorched earth campaign across the Danube, a winter expedition against Ottoman territory that resulted in heavy losses for the Ottoman army and mass impalement of captured commanders, including senior officials Hamza Pasha and Yunus Bey. Reports of the campaign describe entire garrisons and settlements along the frontier destroyed. Sultan Mehmed II, fresh off conquering Constantinople, responded the way empires usually do to defiance. With an army, Mehmed mobilized a force estimated between 150 and 250,000 troops in the spring of 1462, crossing the Danube with orders to depose Vlad and install his more compliant brother, Radu, in his place. Vlad's own forces were a fraction of that size. He couldn't win a conventional war, so he refused to fight one. Instead, Vlad turned to scorched earth tactics, burning his own villages and food stores, poisoning wells, diverting rivers into impassable marshland, anything to slow the Ottoman advance and deny them resources. Then, on the night of June 16th into the 17th, 1462, he attempted something audacious, a direct assassination raid into the Sultan's own camp. Vlad led a cavalry raid into the Ottoman camp under cover of darkness, aiming to kill Mehmed personally before his army had a chance to wake. But in the chaos and dark, Vlad's forces struck the wrong tent, finding the Ottoman Grand Vizier rather than the Sultan himself, and were driven back once the camp regrouped. The raid failed to kill Mehmed, but it left the Ottoman army rattled, marching the rest of the way toward Targovist, already unsettled, and then they found the field, a grisly sight some 3 miles long and a mile wide, thousands of impaled bodies, men, and according to some contemporary accounts, women and children among them, arranged in a semicircle in front of the capital, corpses in various states of decay, birds nesting in the remains. On the 2 tallest stakes, chroniclers claim, were the bodies of captured Ottoman commanders, dead for months, left as a message. The scent of decaying flesh was, by contemporary account, the only thing in the air. Mehmed II, a man who had personally overseen the siege and fall of Constantinople, reportedly withdrew rather than press deeper into Wallachia. Vlad had done what his army couldn't. He'd made an empire flinch. The victory didn't last. Vlad's brutal tactics had come at a price even his own people struggled to bear. Mass desertions followed as exhausted Wallachian nobles and soldiers slipped away to join Radu, the more accommodating brother the Ottomans had installed as a rival claimant. Vlad fled to Transylvania seeking help from Matthias Corvinus, the King of Hungary, a fellow Christian monarch who should, by every alliance of the era, have backed him. Instead, Corvinus had him arrested and imprisoned. The reasons remain murky, accusations of secret correspondence with the Ottomans that historians still debate the authenticity of, or simply political convenience for a Hungarian king who preferred not to provoke Mehmed further. Either way, the prince who had made an empire retreat spent over a decade as a prisoner, his reputation curdling in his absence into the stuff of horror stories, the beginning of a legend that would eventually cross oceans and centuries, reshaped almost beyond recognition into a fictional count who drank blood by moonlight. Vlad was eventually released and briefly reclaimed his throne one final time in 1476, his third and shortest reign. He died within months, killed in battle against Ottoman-backed forces, reportedly near Bucharest. Some accounts claim his head was severed and sent to Constantinople as proof of his death, displayed on a stake in a final, grim echo of his own signature. So which version of Vlad is the true one? To the boyars he executed, he was a butcher who turned a banquet into a massacre. To the merchants and thieves he impaled by the hundreds, he was an executioner who ruled by terror alone. To the Ottoman chroniclers who recorded his atrocities, he was proof of a savage frontier prince unworthy of a throne. But to a small nation of farmers wedged between two empires that wanted to swallow it whole, Vlad the Impaler was, for a handful of years, the only thing standing in the way. Centuries later, an Irish novelist would borrow his name for a very different kind of monster, one who drank blood in the shadows of a Gothic castle. But the fictional Dracula, for all his horror, is in some ways a mercy, a villain safely contained in a story, defeated by the final page. The real Vlad never needed to drink anyone's blood. He built his legend out in the open, in broad daylight, on a field outside his own capital, and an empire looked at what he'd built and decided it wasn't worth marching any further. Maybe that's the real question this story leaves behind. Not whether Vlad was a monster, but whether, for a small country facing annihilation, a monster was exactly what the moment required. World as a fictional monster, when the true history underneath is somehow just as dark and far more human. He wasn't a creature of legend. He was a prince who inherited a shattered family, a country with no room for mercy, and made a choice most of us would never have to face: rule through fear, or lose everything to someone who feared nothing at all. Whether you walk away from this seeing a tyrant or a survivor, I'd genuinely like to know. Drop your take in the comments below. If you enjoyed this one, there's more waiting for you across the channel. Every episode of Graves of Empire lives in the playlist linked below, so you can keep digging. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing. There's always another grave to uncover. Until next time.